Hello everyone, welcome to Over Analytical with Taven Jorgensen. I'd like to thank you all for being here. I'm hoping I will make this time valuable and useful for you. The goal of this podcast is to spread my philosophy of interest and curiosity around these complex and abstract ideas. I'm hoping to stimulate and grow the conversation on these matters. I think it has a lot of benefit, and I think you'll see that if you stick around and listen.
All right, welcome back to another episode of Over Analytical. I'm here with my guest, Sean Blanchard.
How's it going?
So Sean's been a longtime friend and just
known each other since childhood.
Yeah, been playing sports together, doing all kinds of things. Interesting guy, real entrepreneurship minded. You find those are the guys I like to talk to.
Definitely.
So how's it going, Sean?
It's going good, dude. I'm just right now I'm going to school. I'm trying to get my business degree. I want to get a double major in entrepreneurship and marketing. And
where are you at with that? Are you at like Lynn Benton still? Or
I'm actually going to Clackamas Community College, yeah. And so with doing that, I also work side jobs. Right now, I just started back up. I had it going last year, but a pressure washing business that I started.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that. So. Yeah. Like that's super interesting. Like first, like just being our age and starting a venture like that. Like you get so few people that are doing that, but it's like, what else are you doing?
It's just something that's like, it's something that I can do to make money right now, and it's something that I don't need to be fully invested in all my time. But if I created it basically an ad to get people interested in it, and it like posted my phone number and stuff on there, and it basically just explains what I do. I also do lawn care, but pressure washing is the main thing. And I've done some research and stuff like that online before I started it about how much generally people make per job.
What to expect,
and you generally charge like per square foot, but you also I have my own equipment that I use, which adds value to that. So it's like when they ask me when I'm supposed to work a job, I will get asked. I'll charge them for one, my work, and then two, the equipment that I'm using. So it's like double time, which is pretty good and generally beneficial. So
you're almost like leasing the equipment.
Yeah, and then you
do this all yourself too?
Oh, I do this. I also have a buddy who I work with right now. Generally, I do it by myself, but I have someone else who's willing to help me when I need it, and he'll come and do like lawn work or whatever like that. He doesn't have a pressure washer actually, but his name's Chris Holiday. He's a cool guy, hard worker. So I wanted to bring someone into that I know works hard.
How'd you know him before that?
I've known him for a long time. We went to high school together and stuff. So, like I said, brought him in just to help me out, and he wants to make some side money. It's just something that you can do where you don't have to, like I said, be fully invested 9 to 5 and while going to school.
Where'd you get that idea from?
Basically, I mean, one of my buddies used to do it. He talked about it a little bit, but he never like continued with it. And so I was like, oh wow, well it actually seems like a good idea. And now I have a pressure washer, so I'm just gonna go for it and start that up. So it's paid off. It's paid off a lot, and it's just a seasonal thing clearly because you only pressure wash in the spring or summer. So
did you start with like equipment or something, or did you have to buy that or finance it?
My parents actually had the pressure washer. They got it a few years ago, and so it was there. And I was like, I mean, might as well utilize it and make some money with it. So it's good to do while going to school because you can make some, like I said, good money on it. Even roofs, if you pressure wash roofs, you can make like $400 or $500 just from doing that. Yeah, just because it's a little more dangerous being on a roof and pressure washing. So that adds value to it. Also, for driveways, I'll get paid like $200 or $300 for a driveway hourly. So like I said, it's a good deal. Also, right now, I just started reselling vintage clothes. I'm working with my buddy, Noah Schneider. Him and I started a brand called Vintage Era, and so it started off reselling vintage clothes.
Do you have like an Instagram and stuff for that?
Yeah, I do.
We'll definitely put that in the bio, so definitely go check out Sean's stuff.
No, that'd be awesome. Yeah, check it out. There's going to be a lot more products coming in.
That's a cool thing for you, like especially Schneider too, because you guys have both been like people who I'd look at as like more stylish than me, I guess. Just in general, or like just know know what you're like.
No, I'm definitely
into.
like
it's definitely like a good niche for like I could see both of you fitting in there really well.
Yeah,
and it combines that like your entrepreneurship mindset. Like, gives you an extra thing to do. That's sort of
it's something to do on the side, and that's what it is right now for me.
That's sort of what this podcast is for me.
Exactly,
it's that side niche thing that's just like
it's something to like
something you're passionate. I'm sure you look. I know you as a person just know like vintage, like music, vintage, like clothes, vintage, like the garage is all vintage stuff. Like dude. It's all about that.
Exactly.
It's more or less like this is a little modeled off of that like initial first influence of like, oh, what's the vibe of the garage? Like out here, now I got records on the wall. I got a log lamp.
You take perspective from others. I mean, I totally agree. And like even like with this podcast, it's just like something to do to like spread your word or what you want to like get out there and tell people.
And like it builds an audience too, which I think is interesting because it's like I don't know necessarily what I'll need this audience for, but it's nice to like have something to leverage into something else.
Exactly.
Even if I get just like,
it's better
a couple hundred followers, I can any of my friends' startups or whatever, just refer them over there.
Exactly. It's using that, and even like me referring customers to you, like it's just like it's getting like utilizing that, and like you could either be playing video games and sitting around, or you could be doing this or making money on the side. Like it's like, what do you want to spend your time doing?
Yeah. Do you keep do you do like a schedule much, or do you just kind of just do your day to day?
For day to day, sometimes it depends if it's a busy week or not. So I will. If I got a lot going, I'll write it all in my notes, or generally I use notes a lot on my phones. Mm-hmm. Helps a lot with when I got stuff going. I actually, with Vintage Era though, just ordered 15 new shirts, and I got a couple sweatshirts and then 4 jean jackets, getting everything printed with a new logo for the business. So it turned out really well. So that's going to be included.
You started buying and selling vintage things, right?
Vintage
like
clothing, like sports memorabilia.
Finding underpriced items that you think you could flip for higher.
Yeah.
And then just doing that. And then it turned into your own brand with it too.
Own brand, yeah.
So how does that like kind of pivot work? And when did you decide to do that instead of just sticking with
it's just more what the idea for the brand with what me and Noah talked about a lot is like, we want people who wear our brand, like we want them to feel good. I have a list I'll pull out, and this is like something that kind of represents
your values and
the values of the brand and separates us from others. And that's like a big goal, is to like be diversified from other brands and stuff. And so like we want the person to feel passionate, enthusiastic, confident, authentic, and comfortable, and clearly like we want them to feel presence when they wear Vintage Era. And so the main one kind of is authenticity, and that's a big word. And with bringing it into the brand, it's like when you wear this, it's with the Vintage Era, it's taking like the past decades and of history and stuff like that, and bringing that all into one and creating that. And that's like what's cool about vintage clothes, in my opinion, is like the history behind them and where they came from, where they've been, and like
how do you know much about like how to value that kind of stuff?
Well,
like,
I've just honestly learned over time. Like it's like when you get into that, there's a lot of people that resale. I know a lot of shops in Portland and stuff like that that resale vintage clothes, and it's just trial and error pretty much. Like the more you get into it, the more you do, the more you learn, and it's definitely beneficial, and it can be in many ways, including getting to use those pieces on myself if I want to use them.
Is that how it started? When you're just interested in vintage looking clothes to begin with, just for your own personal wardrobe? And
I always go thrift shopping.
Yeah.
And that's where I picked up a lot of vintage clothes. And I also I have a buddy whose dad has collected for the past 30 years vintage clothes, and just has a ton of them, and he's given me the opportunity to resell those and get a percentage for that. And so that's another thing that helped me start this, which is like pretty awesome.
What's like a margin, like a reasonable margin for something like that? Like when you're looking at a price of something like
they're expensive, man. Like it depends.
You're trying to get like 10% on an item. You're trying to get like 150%. Like give me like like if you're gonna buy like I don't know, what's a typical? Give me like, I'm sure there's no typical, but like what's a typical item versus like you'd buy for, then you'd sell for, like ideally. What's the regular?
So if you're gonna find something that's rare, you want to find it for cheap. You're gonna pay like $10-$20 for it, and you'll be able to resell it for $100 at least, maybe even more. Yeah,
huge margins.
You can make big margins on it. It's just about finding the right items and stuff.
How do you develop like a like when you're selling that stuff? Like, you have like some sort of market or some sort of base that you're pitching that to, or like how do you how do you find people to connect with the cool vintage things that you've given value to or discovered value in?
Well, that's like part of the process right now with that is marketing and being able to do that. And there's a lot of different avenues for marketing, and I really want to get into Instagram marketing and Facebook marketing, but it's like, in order to do that, I want to be at the position that it's going to be most effective. And right now it's just getting to that point. And so it's been a quick process, it seems like, but
how long have you been doing it, or how long have you been working on this?
Just honestly, like since
do the vintage clothes timeline, and then do the developing your own specific brand. When did those two things?
Since like January, probably.
That's the brand, or that's the vintage clothes?
The vintage clothes kind of seemed right into the brand. It just started really quick, and that's just been going for a few months, honestly. And it's progressively moved, so it's good, and I'm excited to see where it goes. I don't want to get too ahead of myself talking about it and act like it's anything more than it is, because right now it's so small, but there's a lot of goals that I want to accomplish.
Don't undersell that stuff, man.
Yeah,
like that's like, I'm the king of it. Like, everybody will hear this on before, like, just like the idea of belief.
Yeah,
like, if you let people tell you, oh, it's small, won't do that or whatever, it's like a billion people tell me this podcast is stupid, or not going to do whatever. It's like, I don't care,
dude.
Like,
you never
tell me what you want. It's a lot easier. It's a lot easier to throw stones at a glass house that you didn't build. Like,
for sure, man.
It's like build the house, man. Like,
exactly.
And it's like that's something, like you've proven you can find value in vintage items and selling them, but it's
just something that
now you just got to prove that you can do the brand too, which I think that if you have the eye to spot undervalued vintage clothing, then you have the eye to develop brands and develop clothing people would want. Like, it makes perfect sense, and it just seems like a hell of a fun project.
Like, exactly. And a big goal for it is also customization. That's where it's like slowly going to take away from that, just the resale vintage, and creating more custom pieces, and that's where the brand comes into play. Because anyone can resell vintage clothes. Having a brand, it's more of like creating your own thing, and that's why taking
website
and Vintage Era is supposed to take the past and the present and mix them together and combine them in a way from the outlook of history and how it's changed over time and stuff. It's just a cool thing. Still going though, still starting. So don't get too ahead of it.
You got any timelines? When you're planning on getting? Because you said you ordered the shirts, right?
Yeah, I got them printed. They're getting printed right now as we speak, and I'm gonna be selling them on the 20th actually. At D Block, a few friends their band is playing. Royce Malo, come check it out. It's in Clackamas at D Block.
And you're selling some shirts there?
Yeah, I'll be selling. They're gonna have a few different venues, a few different brands actually are gonna be selling.
When is that event?
April 20th, next weekend.
Oh yeah,
it's coming up. So check it out.
And you'll be there. Do you have like a booth or something, or are you just gonna be like?
Gonna have a booth. It's gonna be pretty sweet. I'm excited. I'm going to have a few items from the resale and stuff, and me and Noah are going to be selling that stuff. So, like I said,
so like a lot of resale items, and then some of your brand.
So
this is the first step in with your brand. You're going to see how these shirts sell.
Exactly,
that's awesome, man. Like, I'm excited. I want to hear.
Yeah.
Definitely. I'm sure you'll be reoccurring. You'll be on a few times, so we'll hear about it eventually. But next
time
you come on, make sure that... Because I'm
more about it.
I'm hoping the audience will be a little bigger too.
Yeah.
So then maybe we can get some. Also,
that's another. Customers.
Get some customers, man. Send some stuff over. Like.
Yeah, no, I'm excited about it. It's like I said, it's still starting. So
my favorite thing about like Joe Rogan's podcast, I guess, is like not the mirror for this, but who I guess got me into the idea of like, oh, it's interesting to have conversations with people. It's like his favorite thing my favorite thing he does is he's a kingmaker. Like, if somebody comes on with what they're doing, like, he can turn them into a viralized thing, or he can turn them into a thing like that. So that's what I'd like to do eventually, like, with you, like, because I have other friends with, like, all kinds of different ventures and stuff. It's like, I would love to give the life to that a little bit, and like maybe throw me a T-shirt or something.
Really cool.
And, like,
it's a really cool dude. Represent it, fucking wear it.
I'd wear a T-shirt. Next time you come on, bring me a shirt. Next time I will wear the shirt on the show, 100%. I'm a men's medium.
Yeah,
bring a shirt.
All right.
I guess, just for any future guests, too. Bring me stuff. I love stuff. I'll add it to my collection. I got a huge room here. Just anything interesting. I need
some more records.
Whatever, man. Like, I'd love that kind of stuff.
It's just growing, dude. Like this, it's growing, and it's going to continue to grow. It's just about how much effort's put into it. And that's, like, a lot of people don't realize is, like, the more effort you put into something, the better it's gonna be. The more it's gonna get paid off.
I guess people don't. I feel like people don't realize like the power of their friends too. It's like
and utilizing those.
Yeah,
it's
like
well.
just post something on Facebook that you're doing. You're gonna get 20 people who are into it just because they want to support you.
Exactly.
Like,
you want to utilize those tools that you have, and your friends are a big tool that you have, even if you need them to help you out on a job or something like that. Like,
you need them for a skill they have too.
Exactly.
Like, especially now that like high school, everybody's pretty generic and like nobody really knows anything special. When you get into college, you start specializing in different areas. Like I know some accounting stuff, somebody knows some code stuff, somebody knows this. Like you piece it all together and like you can do some pretty crazy stuff with it.
Exactly. Combining that together is what creates greatness, in my opinion. So
yeah, it just, and it's not even about like, I think that's another kind of hurdle I think is interesting is like, I guess Elon Musk's kind of a good example of this. Like people see the stuff he does at the huge scale and it's like, oh, that's incredible. Like I think how smart he is and all this. Like which he is intelligently smart and obviously he's the head of these projects.
Had some help there.
You know what he's doing though is he's going to all these smart universities. He's tapping students on the back shoulder, say, "Oh, what do you want to work on Tesla engineering?" Like
he didn't do it all.
That's what he's doing. He's
all the credit.
He's delegating these projects.
He's just the front man. He has the money. He's putting it in and he's creating something.
I think a lot of his ideas are his too. And I think he's just saying like, "Oh, Tesla engineers, can you make this for me?" And it's just like that. It's like, yeah, but it's like you view him as the credit of that invention and like all that. It's like
he's not the
he's not the guy physically making it. He's not the guy. He might not even necessarily need. I'm sure he does understand it, but he doesn't necessarily even need to. Like, and that's.
I mean, that's with anything though. Like, there's billionaires that do that all the time. That just put money into something, get credit for it, and it's not even them. It's not even their creation.
And that's sort of like it's because me. I've sort of told you about it a little bit, but I'll have like a full episode on it, so I won't get too deep into it. But like another kind of side venture thing I'm starting, like the conscientious consumer thing. I don't know if I showed you that.
What's
at all.
that?
Just like the socially responsible database for ranking the companies. I'll tell you about that at all.
No.
I'll
have to hear more.
Yeah,
about it.
I'm gonna do an episode on it eventually. So like I'll get more deep into the details because it's like pretty complicated subject. But it involves like a lot of planning and a lot of organizing that is like significantly over my head. Like,
and this is to benefit.
It's like an entrepreneurship thing.
Really?
It's a business.
So you'll make some money on it. That's the goal.
It's like so what it's gonna be is like, what I want it to be is I want it to be like Facebook, but that's a little crazy. Like once I told you I'm the king of crazy ideas. Like that's my thing.
I mean that's how you fucking make something though, dude. You gotta have a crazy idea to go somewhere. Like,
the premise of the idea is like, people are so like busy with their day-to-day lives that they don't have time to be vetting every business they go to. They don't know where to put their dollars to value the community, value the employees. They don't know what's going on the inside of those companies and why they should or shouldn't be paying money to them.
Yeah.
And I'm going to try to create a metric that standardizes that in a way that's easy to digest for like a free to use app so people could in real time determine if McDonald's or Burger King is better value for their dollar depending on how socially responsible those companies are with the profits.
That's awesome, dude.
And I think because the problem is it's like people don't know how to correct the markets, but everybody's so pissed off about corporations making so much money. But it's like the ideal of capitalism is if the corporations are making the most money, they're the favorite businesses that everybody's like using. So it's like why is everybody resenting the things that they support or use? So it's like you got to put your money where your mouth is, I guess. And I think this would give a tool that would enable a lot of people who just don't have access to that information or that time to see the effects and how it can really kind of internal. And it's a huge big data operation.
Of course. It's going to have like a large code that's written in order to do that. But
part of it is like I don't know anything about CS. Like I know very little, but I know people who know things about CS.
It's like we were just talking about.
Like Colin Miller, for example. Like the last episode guest, everybody saw him. Like he's a big part of that project. And he's doing the CS stuff, which we talked about. But his dad is like a software programmer. It's like so any hurdles we get into developing that code, it's like, oh, we'll just shoot him a text, and I'm sure he'll be more than happy to help us or refer us some direction that would help us.
I'm huge on using that, like other friends and stuff, just to help you or benefit your business or your side hustle in a way. Well, I think like side hustles are like a big thing that people should do like while they're young, because it gives you perspective, it gives you knowledge and wisdom on something, and it might not pay off, it might fail, but it's still like you're gonna learn from it, and you're gonna be able to then take that knowledge that you gained and use it somewhere else.
And most people are like, there's an even deeper reality to that too. Is like 20 to 30 is the time you don't need your credit to be good. Yeah. So take some shots. Like take some shots. Like it doesn't matter. Like it can recover by the time you're 30. Like you got time before it really matters. Ideally, you wouldn't want to do that and like pick your risk wisely.
Yeah.
And then there's an even further truth of like, I think Trump's changing it, but it's like you're beyond your parents' health care until like 24, 26.
Yeah,
and they're trying to lower it now.
They're lowering it,
which
right
sucks.
It's true. To 18, like, I think.
Yeah, which would not be good because then
it's going to cause a lot.
It's going to cost a bunch of people a lot of money, and
but
it's going to really stifle your entrepreneurship abilities. Because if you're paying your health insurance, you're not going to have money to be disclosing these kind of businesses.
Yeah.
Right now, I got a 2-year window where I'm on my parents' health insurance, where I could take all the shots I want and not really have to worry about covering an insurance cost or the insurance for my family. Or
the only thing about it is people are going to have to adapt to it. Like if you think about when people are growing up and they're under their parents' roof, when does their parents start charging them for their cell phone bill, their car insurance, stuff like that? And the people that get charged that like seem to progress a little bit better with their money and money handling skills.
Yeah, I definitely with you. I don't think
it's just a huge change.
I wish it would be gradual.
Yeah,
and I wish that it would be gradual.
Like, exactly.
But I definitely with like I think I saw this like study the other day where they were saying that the mental like maturity age of kids today is like the same at like I want to say a 26-year-old today is as mature as an 18-year-old was 40 years ago.
Really?
So like because of the way we're treating and coddling children, we're keeping them in keeping them on the insurance, keeping them in the house, not kicking them out, paying for this.
And trust me, I'm living at home. I utilize that. I utilize that. I mean, I'm not going to go like I was living on my own and I was like living separately, and it was just expensive. And it's like, I mean, if I have the ability to live at home for a little bit longer, I'm going to utilize
milk
that.
it as long as you can.
Milk it, man.
Make your parents pay that cell phone bill. Make them pay that insurance. Do everything you can as long as
just
you can.
Just know that you're going to need to do it.
Yeah, but once it's off, man. Like there's no safety net anymore. Yeah. Like most people have that realistic scenario. Like there's a few people that are lucky enough where they're not really they don't have any stakes to the situations they're in. Like
they're they're funded their whole lives. I mean, it's just
just the way
they get the money. All the money from their parents are fine.
Just fine. Like I would take the path if I had it. Yeah. I mean, I still would do fun stuff with it. I still make a podcast, but I would. I don't know.
Invest in some new equipment.
Or just use your resources to your advantage. And one of the biggest resources that we have is being on our parents' health care. Like being part of that without having to pay into that system is like huge.
It's expensive,
and it makes it like there's the one like I'm pretty like conservative with like most of my like economic value systems, but the one where I'm a little questionable is like socialized healthcare.
Yeah.
I don't know what the most efficient way to get everybody healthcare, but I do think it should be something everybody has.
It's always just a fight, though.
It has such an entrepreneurial advantage, though. Like in Toronto, where they have universal healthcare, they have the highest rate of entrepreneurship in the country, in all the world, actually. So it's like, social, because you remove right now, like I have this experience with like just people who I like work with or people I know, like blue collar kind of guys, like stuck in situations because they gotta get their health care is attached to their work benefits, so they can't just quit their job to start a business because then they got to pay out of pocket for a family of 4 for health care. And like that's a crazy risk without any income coming in for 2 years, which is what most startups have.
It's
like it's a literally impossible hurdle for a lot of people. So and I think that doing something to send us back in the direction of entrepreneurship would be pretty positive.
I agree, dude. Do you ever watch Shark Tank?
Yeah, a little bit.
It's a pretty interesting show. It just like gives you perspective. And like people,
the vocabulary.
There's so many crazy ideas on there. It's also a learning tool. Like using that as like to see like I mean freaking Mark Cuban and Kevin O'Leary and like
just going on there and getting grilled by them and getting their advice is probably value enough to make the trip worth it.
Exactly.
Like realistically,
they're smart business. Like I mean,
Mark Cuban doesn't make many mistakes.
Yeah, no, he's a smart guy, and like seeing other people's ideas and just like seeing how like just a small idea can go a million miles. Like it's just crazy.
To really break it down, it's like you pronunciate the proper syllables in the right order to the right person, and suddenly there's millions of dollars. Like it's literally that basic. True, like dude. It's like you got an idea, you got to take it.
Invention, man. That's
I saw
crazy.
this.
I love thinking about shit like that.
This was one of my like 3 a.m. tweets of like looking through random crap, just tired. But I was like, this quote I saw that was. Oh, I'm blanking. I can't remember. Screw that. It was I just totally blanked, but it was. I don't know. Let's go on. Just go on next topic.
Move on.
All right. So let's see. The next thing that I sort of like wanted to ask you about was your experience with like your dad passing.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
like I guess like I don't know where to. That's a pretty big one to jump into. It is a big one,
man. It was a tough road, definitely.
Can you give like a timeline maybe so people like the diagnosis originally, and then the fight, and then
with cancer, stage 4 kidney cancer, and I want to say it was my junior year in high school. It was September, the beginning of September, and he was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, and he passed away on April 21st, 2 years ago. So next week, 2 years ago. But it was a life-changing experience.
When you found out about like the diagnosis, like what were your thoughts?
I was devastated. My dad had previously had a tumor that was removed years prior, and I was a lot younger when that happened, and I didn't realize the extent of it really at that age. And then once he got to stage 4, I was just devastated. And then it metastasized into a brain tumor, and they removed the brain tumor, and he lived to be till my senior year, which he passed away like a month and a half before my graduation, high school graduation, which was really, really tough. My dad played a big impact on my life, and I'd like to say that he's the reason why I am the way I am.
A lot of like people who don't really know like Sean's dad, or I guess even Sean, for example, like everybody who's been around you or been to the garage or been like, they know the influence that music has. They've known the influence that your dad has clearly had on you. Like,
he's an amazing
all of you
person.
and your brothers, like it's very clear. It's very looked up to personally.
Exactly, and you knew him. You grew up around him and stuff. And
took me to Seaside for a basketball tournament.
No, we spent some good times. I mean, he was a great guy. I learned a lot from him.
Music collection was insane.
Yeah, I definitely took his music taste, which includes a lot of those bands up there.
Sean probably literally influenced me into a lot of the directions for music I'm interested in solely off of his dad's influence. Because your dad was at all the concerts.
All the concerts. I went to all the concerts with him too. I've seen a lot of different bands. I've gotten to see Paul McCartney live. I mean, my dad was an awesome person. I had a lot in common with him through sports, through music. Sports was a big one. I love football. I love basketball. I grew up playing football, and
he was always big into that. He was always a guy at every game.
Yeah, every game. He made it to my senior year football season. Every game.
I remember that. Even through all of
that was his goal for me to make it there. So
it was awesome that he did that.
Yeah, no, it was cool. My dad was a great guy, and afterwards, I kind of went down a dark path a little bit. It was challenging for me. But I overcame that, and I am on a good path now. And so I'm just glad to say that I'm just glad to say that I had him as a dad. Like, he was a great guy, and a lot of people don't have that opportunity to have a parent like that. So
and you had him like up until you were pretty much a man. Like,
I know.
You pretty much got like.
And I cherish
what
those
fathers
memories,
wanted to imprint on their son was already been imprinted before he was gone, which I think is pretty awesome. That definitely.
And I take into that a lot. And he was a respected person, and I want to be a respected person, and want to go places in my life. So it's like taking that in is definitely a benefit. He's a cool guy. I miss him, but he's still there with me. So
so I guess let's go back. So when it really materialized, like the significance of it,
just got worse over time. He went through chemotherapy, a lot of chemotherapy, and I
remember
don't necessarily agree with chemotherapy because it's killing your body and it's putting poison into your body, and that's a big topic of mine that I'm into is alternative ways to cure cancer.
That kind of stuff.
Yeah, because there is no cure for cancer. There never will be a cure for cancer, in my opinion, because the government makes so much money on people who are sick with it. They're not going to
incentivized in the right way.
Yeah, exactly. And there's, I mean, that's another topic to go into, but
we'll circle back to that.
Yeah, but
when you, I guess here, so you materialize like when
the cancer metastasized to his brain, and then he had a brain tumor. They removed the tumor, and then they actually had to remove another tumor out of his brain later on. He was a fighter. He fought hard. They removed a kidney tumor as well. They hoped that it would shrink. The cancer would shrink, but it was aggressive.
When did it, like, for you, when did it, like fuck, like, this could be the end
honestly,
of this?
my dad started,
when did that kind of crack happen,
I could just see it in him. I could just see him starting to fail and starting to get more sick in that late year before he passed away. And it was just, his mind was going, it was causing an effect on his mind and stuff. And I was starting to lose like the dad that I had, and it was hard for me to realize that. It was hard for me to understand. Like,
I guess, is there like a, like, I don't know, is there like a guilt almost associated with like oh, well, I got this much time with him left, like should I be spending all the time in the world with him, or like how do you like, talk me through what that was like? That's what I imagine it was like, and like what I would imagine,
and that's where I like feel like I could have spent more time with him, and that's why like one of the biggest regrets I have is the time that I spent, and like I wish I would have spent more time, but I did get to spend a lot of time with him, and I'm just glad that he got to see me and my brother grow up. I'm glad that he got to put an impact on me, and definitely has given me perspective, and I have a lot of values that are the same as his, and interests are the same as his as well.
He definitely will live on through through you guys, like
in a good way. So
I think a lot of people that, because I went to your dad's service and it was a good service, and I remember just hearing the stories of people I didn't know, obviously, that knew your dad, and it's like wait, is that guy talking about Sean's dad? Are you talking about Sean? like that's like, it was weird. It was a real trip. It's like if this was Sean's funeral up here I'm talking about, like I might be telling a similar story. I might be telling a similar thing. Like it was like,
I'm glad that you took that.
Really realizing like the connection that you and your dad had. Really like, because I always knew it was there, and like I knew it was strong. But like I remember that specific speech was like interesting to me. I can't even remember that guy's name. I wish I did.
It might have been Mark.
It might have been. Yeah. I probably couldn't even connect a face to it. I remember walking away with that.
Yeah, no. And if my tip to anyone is like, if you're going through a rough time like that, it's just like spend all the time you can with them, and understand that there will be a better time. There will be, it will get better. It just takes time, and it's challenging for sure. It'll always be challenging.
It's never something that you're not gonna have, right?
And like, there's times where I just like it hits me again, but it's like, it just overcoming that is what's going to show the true power in yourself, and you're definitely going to learn a lot from a challenge like that. So it's important to just fight hard and understand that you're going to get through it, and you're going to like, there's going to be better times again.
Probably grow from it.
Yeah, exactly. I did grow from it.
Probably be a stronger person.
Definitely a stronger person for sure.
Here, I got to reset the camera, so we're going to take a quick intermission.
Okay.
All right, well, we're back from the intermission.
Back from the break.
Let's go at it again. We're getting even deeper, even harder this time. Let's go. All right, so back.
High voltage here.
So, yeah, let me crack my Diet Coke. But, so we're talking about your dad.
Yep.
And this thing you and your family had to overcome.
Yeah, I mean, it was a challenge.
I sort of got to like watch it more from afar than.
My dad was the breadwinner. My dad did make the money for the family. I mean, my mom works and she's made some good money and stuff. But I mean, he's just had a solid job, a lot of benefits that helped our family, and he was
losing that was.
It's been a challenge, and right now my mom's in the process of wanting to move out of the house that we've lived in for the last 20 years. So we have to go through a lot of stuff. And it's kind of like me and my brother just need to step up and have stepped up.
Your brother, I don't know specifically about necessarily how your contribution, so I wanted to ask about that too. Yeah. But I noticed that your brother, I've talked to you about it a few times, like your brother definitely seems like he kind of stepped up and filled that role. Like
a little, yeah, definitely, I agree. Even differently than me, because he is my older brother.
Different places in your life too.
Yeah.
You're in high school when this went down. Like,
exactly.
You can't be expected to go work in the factory. And
yeah. No, seriously.
Brandon was,
and he was just there all the time, and he was just there whenever it was needed, and like I want to get to a point in my life. That's my goal, is to where I can give back to everyone who's given to me, and the most I've been given is from my mom. She's just a very caring person and has given me so much. So when I'm at that point, I want to give back to her, and that's one of my biggest goals. Has always been, is to give back, and that's why I want to be successful, and that's why I have the drive in the way that I do. And that's another thing that like sprouted out of my dad's passing is the drive that I've been given to do something in my life and to make an impact. And I want to make an impact on the people closest to me, but I also do want to make an impact in the world in some way.
You got to start somewhere, though.
Exactly. And it's just a process and trial and error and continuing to fight and continuing to go. But that's that. I mean...
Yeah. So what is your older brother doing now? Like, where's he at with life?
He's actually starting a new program in HVAC. It's trade school. He'd go to trade school for 2 years and get involved in a program where he's doing like software engineering kind of. Oh, I was just talking about. So Brandon, he's getting involved with this right now, and he was, like I said, working at Lazy Boy, and so once he got a hold of this idea, he just wanted to run with it. So that's what he's working on.
How is like your relationship with him and kind of and your mom? I imagine you've grown closer over something like this.
Yeah, definitely.
Has it been like
in ways?
I mean, in that?
There's still arguments, of course, as always, but
family.
Yeah, exactly. And no, it's definitely brought us closer, and we're definitely have been more involved in stuff. I also have an older brother, Michael, who's married and lives in Eugene now, actually. And I see him a lot more. It's brought him a little bit closer to me and my brother, in all honesty, which is really cool.
So how much older is he than you guys?
He's 31. Or 30. He's 33, sorry, my bad.
Yeah, 33,
but, so he's a little bit older, but he's been there. He lived in Texas, grew up in Texas, and then moved to Oregon when he was like 23, 24. And he's been here since. So now he's married, lives in Eugene, loves the Ducks.
I see that you play Call of Duty with him. You stream?
I don't stream. He streams.
I saw you on there once with him.
I'm not bad, dude. Like, I play Apex.
Is that what you play?
Oh, a lot. I've been playing Apex a little bit.
Is that your favorite
video
battle
games
royale?
are a waste of time, in my opinion, but it's fun for just like when you finish all your shit.
When you listen to my podcast, we're playing video games. Something to do.
Apex is a battle royale. You haven't played it?
Yeah, I like.
Dude, it's so dope. I fucking.
It's
love
hard.
it.
I'm not good enough at them anymore. Like I liked Fortnite, and then when everybody started changing over to Builder Pro for Fortnite, I was like, yeah, this is too hard for me, and I just kind of dropped battle royale.
I kind of kept playing it a little bit, and then adapted to the Builder Pro, but.
I eventually did adapt, but like it's just never the same. I like the.
With games like that, you have to play all the time in order to be good at them. Because people
are playing
all the time. You got to keep up with that mentality, dude. It's it's hard to do.
Do you remember video games when you could be good at online video games really easily, like 2008, like
Modern Warfare,
Modern Warfare 2 days, like those.
That was the best game, bro. That was fun, but.
Isn't that who made Apex? I'm pretty sure it's the same guys.
Infinity Ward?
No, it wasn't Infinity Ward, but the guys from Infinity Ward.
Oh, really?
I'm pretty sure the ones that made Apex.
It's EA.
Is it EA now? Well, they might work there now.
Yeah.
I thought I heard somebody. I heard one of my podcasts or somebody talking about.
Sweet, dude. Like the character abilities and stuff like that.
Like I heard someone comparing it to Modern Warfare 2, and they're like, "Oh, you know why it compares that way? It's because the guys that made Modern Warfare 2 were the ones that also working on this project or something like that."
I did not know that. That's cool.
I don't know. Apex is super interesting to me to get because how do you start something like that? Because you have to be pushing the marketing so far out before you even have a product. Essentially,
they released it for free.
You started there, but you get slow wait times, right? Or initially, if you don't have you have an amount of servers, and then you fill those servers, and then people either can't play. They must have
just gotten. I mean, clearly,
you have to have a snowball to start those kind of things, right? But to get the snowball, you have to have the game. So
to see weird. The data on it and see how it's working and stuff. But I feel like with all the other games that have been released, they've gotten enough information on it to be able to structure that. And it did have some issues, of course, at the beginning, but they fixed it fairly quickly, so it turned out well. No, it's fun. Check it out.
You like the COD at all?
Blackout? Yeah, I do.
You like Apex better though?
I do because I'm really good at Apex.
I guess where do you rank Apex, PUBG, Fortnite, COD?
I didn't play PUBG. I played Fortnite and Blackout. A little bit of Blackout, Fortnite more, and then Apex. But I mean, I have a lot of fucking wins on Apex, so I've played that. I play that a lot compared to other games. I don't really play video games too much anymore. I used to play when I was younger, and then I stopped for a while, and then I kind of got back into it a little bit. But
I'll play Minecraft.
I haven't played Minecraft since I was younger.
Dude, I mess with it.
We used to play so much, dude. We had crazy worlds. I had a dojo created and
so much fun. It's gotten so deep, dude. You gotta check it out.
I created a hotel. And
there's water biomes and stuff now where you can see different types of fish and dolphins and stuff. It's pretty crazy. There's polar bears.
They've
updated it for sure. It's basically a life simulation at this point.
It's going from PS2 games to Xbox 360, and I going back and playing those games. I'm like, what?
How do we play this?
But it was so cool in the moment. That's what's so crazy about life in general. It's even with TVs or quality of TVs. Like, it was so good back then, and then to see where it went now, just wait to see where it's gonna go.
Yeah, like that TV right
like
there.
Gary Vaynerchuk said, TVs are turning into radios and your phone's turning into the television. And if you look in depth into that, it's true, because I mean, think about your phone. You use it for everything. You're always watching. People watch movies all the time on their phone or something like that. Phone size just continues to increase.
Yeah, it's like
it's turning into your virtual TV, dude. It's crazy.
Well, it's also like what do you do when a radio ad comes on? Is you change the station.
Exactly.
It's like, what do you do when a TV ad comes on? It's like,
you
I look at my phone.
phone.
Like, I get stimulation.
You get on your
phone,
and then when you're on your phone, you get an ad and you have to watch it.
So what do you think about that? Like, just going forward,
well,
are you a cell phone guy? Like, do you like the tech?
Do you wish technology
that
is awesome and it can go very far, but there's also it's a scary thought to think of how far it could go and what it could cause. And like I was talking to you about earlier, there's robots now, very high quality robots that are starting to wonder why they are different than humans, or what they're starting to gain a little bit of a conscience. And ask these questions, and that's just from adaptation, and that's something that we've done for centuries, just natural selection. But it's
what kind of track is the AI on, or is it a comparable one?
Automated, something that's been created by handmade. Like
you got that going on, and then in like China, you got the scientists messing with the monkey embryos to put human genes in them.
Yeah, that's
crazy. Like, they're essentially what they're trying to do. I was reading it on like I want to say it was like Harvard Review, or it's one of those.
You were telling me, dude, that stuff that just sounds like insane.
It's like literally like Western science isn't allowed to do it because that's how ethically gray area that what they're doing is. But they're finding these monkeys that they found they've isolated some gene in our embryo or in our system that they think leads to consciousness and the evolution that caused all of this. And they're giving that to these embryos in form of like a virus, and it's contaminating their like brain cells or something, and they're developing the genes similar to us. And you're finding the monkeys that are developing these, like this one specific strain of genes, there's like millions of them.
And to
this specific one, and you're seeing like in the earliest monkeys they're doing it with, they're showing like a longer time to develop their brain, which is interesting. Like which is what bearing age is like 1 to 18.
Yeah, I mean,
but a monkey's is like not nearly. I don't know what it is. Like, their brain development is more mirroring ours when they're given this DNA, which makes sense.
Clearly.
And then you're seeing like on top of that, they're getting this DNA, and they're showing better on like short-term memory tests and like color eye tests. Like so, it's like
like you were saying with the fish, dude. It's like being able to implement something into a fish that makes them be able to eat trash and not die or not get sick.
Just mess with the adaptations, the nature system within like the computer.
And that's just going to continue to happen. It's been happening. It's always been a gray area, like you said.
Doing it to like humans, like CRISPR. Like,
you think about movies where someone's like altering like an animal or something like that, and it starts growing freaking wings or something. Like
one day it's sci-fi, and the next day they're doing it in real life.
Exactly,
it's an actual idea stemmed from somewhere.
Just like for technology, you think about movies that are showing advancements in technology, and like that's slowly happening. For instance, surrogates, or you think about virtual reality, the game virtual reality, and where how far it's progressed, and like it feels like you're in the game. Like I know that you have a VR set. It's a really awesome experience, but to see where that experience could go to is like.
Have you heard like Elon Musk kind of thing on it, where he talks about the simulation theory?
No.
Basically, his point is we're playing Pong in like the 70s, right?
Yeah.
Basic computers. 2019, 2018, we have VR that is like it's obviously distinguishable by the human eye, but it's getting closer.
Yeah.
Eventually be in 1080p and be pretty solid.
Yeah.
But he says that it's pretty realistic to assume that we will get to a point where like we will be able to develop simulations in VR that are indistinguishable to the human eye, which means you could put babies into those and they would never know. To put them into a feeding tube and water and put them in a VR simulation, let them live out their entire lives, and then wake them up the next day and say, "Oh, actually, no, this is the real world."
I've seen that's like Black Mirror, dude.
Yeah, same idea. But and Elon's kind of thought was like, "Oh, well, the universe is infinite." Right, it's going all different directions. Like the chance of us being like the sole life in the universe and being some weird anomaly is like really not true. Like it just doesn't make any sense rationally.
Yeah.
So he's like, well, what are the chances some other higher intelligent thing came over here, cast the simulation thing on whatever original thing we are, and that's what we're experiencing right now.
Jeez.
It's like we've shown the capability. Like, what would we do? Like, we find
that's insane.
If we found in it like a planet of monkeys or things that are like not quite the easiest to manage and organize, what would we do? We would mass brainwash them,
it's
or
crazy.
something similar. So it's like
thoughts like that are just make your head run.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I'm super big on like the simulation theory. I think it makes a lot of sense. I think your DNA looks like computer code. I think if you lay it out, it looks the same way, and it functions the same way. You just wake
up like a super like.
Well, that's what they're doing with CRISPR, right? That's what they're doing with CRISPR. They're changing your DNA. It's like, oh, well, this button makes him do this. So if I poke him this way, it does this. Like that's what a computer does. Like you change this code, it changes this. So it's like it's the same idea. So I don't know. That stuff freaks me out. Like, and you have a big tech in this race of like trying to hardwire your brain to get you addicted to whatever they're doing, like the Instagram, Facebook likes thing. Like everybody's pulling you in so many directions subconsciously, and like not very many people are even aware that they're being pulled that way.
Yeah.
So it's like it's really scary, and if you don't know what's happening, it's gonna sneak up on you.
Yeah. And like the surrogate thought, like I was saying earlier, like where you get into a machine and you are like in a full another body, but it's a robot and a very advanced robot that looks human, and you're sitting, lying in a bed that's like your body is just sitting there in this machine, but you're feeling that everything in the surrogate. It's like VR expanded, and that's where it's slowly progressing to. You think about VR, they have now where there's games where it's not even a game, it's ESPN, and you go to a basketball game and you're sitting courtside.
That's crazy to me.
And you're
how do you think that's going to affect
and you look
markets?
around and there's the crowd. Well, that's what I'm saying.
Like, how does that affect?
Wait till there's no one at the game.
Yeah, like,
and they're all watching.
Everybody's like watching virtually
VR,
each
dude.
other.
They're like, oh, hey, what's up, Tommy? How you doing? Like, and
Can you believe
crowd,
these seats?
The whole crowd is like just their friends and their family. Like it's created. It's not even like they're.
Do you even want a crowd at a basketball game though necessarily?
I mean.
I've never thought about it. I've never considered this, though.
It's fun, though. I mean, it's fun.
Like a little bit, but like, how does that add and affect the game?
Well,
do we like that?
When you go to a Seahawks game and you got everyone drinking beer and yelling, Seahawks!
It's pretty hype.
It is. It's fun in a way.
It's a cool experience for sure.
I just that's why it would never.
Is that the selling experience, though? I guess is what I'm wondering.
That's why people. I mean,
is that why people
seeing it in person, though? Seeing it in person, like that's a big factor.
Because like for me.
If you don't have to drive there, people are lazy. They're naturally lazy. And so if they don't have to drive there, they don't have to walk there, they don't have to do anything to get there.
The beer costs $1 at my house. It's like $7. Like, why would I what would be better about going to the stadium? I don't have to deal with the traffic.
We're getting lazier, bro.
We're getting
lazier. We're getting lazier and lazier. It's like
sure, Amazon's like derooting the central economy of our manufacturing companies.
Monopoly coming into play.
And there's nobody's like literally like the only reason that Amazon's like monopoly, we'll call it.
It is basically
just based on consumer laziness.
It is.
We all know the problem. Like South Park
don't want to go to the fucking store. They want to sit in their bed.
You watch South Park,
and
right?
order something on their phone.
Have you seen the South Park episode where Walmart comes to town and they all end up like it puts all the local business out of business and everybody ends up working at Walmart, shopping at Walmart?
I don't think I've seen that one.
But it's like this was like 10 years ago. 10 years ago, this episode aired, probably roughly.
Yeah.
Like they were pointing to this, like, oh, when you support big business with your money and you take take these cheap goods over like hard brick and mortar shops, you put them out of business. Like you deroot the central one of the biggest jobs in your economy is like sales, and we're just destroying that. Like I go to Best Buy, I talk to a salesman. The Best Buy has to pay for half an hour to speak to me about what kind of TV I want.
Terrible service.
And then well, that too. But then I can take all the knowledge from the salesman and say, oh, you guys sell it for $900. Well, Amazon has it for $800. So I'll see you later. Yeah, it's like I can take all the value out of the brick and mortar.
Nothing that they said has any effect on the purchase.
Yeah, exactly. Because it doesn't matter. And like most people are like pretty straightforward about it. And most people I think don't even think about it.
Well, that's why
part of it. That's part of the A's. I think most people don't realize when I buy something on Amazon, I am not buying it from a local shop that would have charged a little more money. So like me doing this, whatever, not that big of a deal, but 100 people in our community doing this, and like
every
suddenly
day,
your bagel shop is out of business.
Yeah, exactly.
Or your Fred Meyer's is going under, and then I don't know. It usually creates like Because the way the capitalist business cycle works, like you have like a market that's like wide open. There's so many people in it, and then people start to flood in to fill the market until they put them all themselves out of business because it's too competitive pricing.
Yeah.
But Walmart and Amazon are derooting small businesses across the country. So I don't know if this cycle recovers in a way or like, cause you're gonna.
And there's many different reasons behind why it's happening, and it's not their fault that it's happening.
They're just playing the game perfect.
Exactly.
They're literally predicting demand perfectly.
They are living
the most
up to
efficient.
The human nature of laziness, basically.
Jeff Bezos is like literally probably the most intelligent man on the planet for like what he accomplished, and like you really look into like
he's worth what, like $350 billion,
something insane. Well, he got divorced, but they didn't. Oh yeah, it wasn't half. I was weird because everybody was saying, "Oh, it's gonna be the richest divorce ever," but I think she only got like 30 billion of his like 160 or something crazy.
It's something like that. It's like insane amount.
Oh no, I hate when people talk about that though. When people talk about rich people's net worth, they're like, "Oh, well, he could be putting all that money in charity." It's like, well, no, 80% of that worth is his company. That's like you'd have to liquidate Amazon's assets to fulfill your donation
on hand, dude. It's not like
people think that though, dude. It's great. Even in college, I have these conversations all the time. Like people really don't understand the difference between net assets and like, oh, does he just have $1 billion sitting in his bank? Like he might have
he's got $160 billion sitting on hand.
I guess I'll tell you like something pretty straight up, like it's pretty obvious. I bet these rich people probably don't have more than like $10 million in bank accounts. Like it's just not something I would trust with it. Like what would you put $1 billion in a bank account? You'd invest it in things that aren't going to lose value.
And they weren't spending it. Like why would they just let it sit there?
Yeah, why would you not earn more money?
Why would you not, one, spend it,
invest it,
two,
buy property, or do things with it?
Give it to someone. Why would it just?
Which is what most people
collect dust.
Yeah. But yeah, people act like that's what's going on.
Dust. Dude.
That's what people act like is going on now.
It's like you think about Monopoly. What's his name? I don't know why I'm calling him blank right now.
Jeff Bezos?
No.
Monopoly?
The original Monopoly.
I don't know this.
The guy who's on the cover of Monopoly. He's the not like I'm thinking like
it's like a character.
Oh my gosh, I'm not
look it up.
This is sad.
I don't know his name. I know who you're talking. I might know it when you tell me it. I didn't even know the guy had a name.
I know it. I don't know why I'm calling him blank. It's just sad that I am. This is very sad.
The Monopoly guy's name. So like what where are you going with the story?
I'm just gonna say he was a really smart guy. He just wanted to distribute all his wealth back into society, and like he was huge on that. Which
another kind of interesting point too, I guess. It's like you can call this greed, but buying products in the market is redistributing your wealth. Yeah. So whether I buy $100 billion of Ferraris or I buy $100 billion of some other random thing, I've effectively redistributed that wealth back into the system for the corporations and for the businesses, which will later divvy those up between their employees and their shareholders like everybody else. It's not like, I don't know. I'm not a big on the...
JP Morgan, dude.
Oh, that's the guy? He's the original Monopoly guy? I didn't know that. I know who JP Morgan is.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I know. He's one of the big three from the Industrial Revolution.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know why I called the blank, but clearly JP Morgan. Anyways.
Yeah, the bank guy.
He, dude, look at that photo. Monopoly.
I didn't realize he was the Monopoly guy. I didn't realize the Monopoly guy was based on someone real. Really?
I'm pretty sure. I mean, he's
I've never heard
the first one who created Monopoly. Like, and John D. Rockefeller and Leland Stanford.
Are you talking about like business Monopoly or like the board game Monopoly?
Business Monopoly, but created
the board game. The board game's based off
his face. I'm pretty sure. Like,
it makes sense. Like they were the original Monopoly guys.
Yeah, but anyways, J.P. Morgan, what he was big on was distributing his wealth back into society for beneficial factors. He didn't want to just give all his wealth back to his family and just keep it in there. It's like he wanted to. He created like systems and stuff like that, and like he didn't want to just waste his money that he had. He wanted to use it as benefit, and I think that everyone should strive to do that. And I think that there is a lot of money in the world that's not spent and not given to helpful funds that are just sitting there and doing nothing. But it's like, I mean, it's all on the person who did it, who got there.
Yeah, you really gotta.
They put the effort into doing it.
And at the end of the day, like, I really think they should get to call their shots. Like,
yeah, it's their money, man. Like, I mean, in reality, it is their money, and they're the ones.
Earned it. Like, I had a teacher that put it. It's like they earned it ethically, legally, and morally, then like
it's just. I mean, you might disagree with what they're doing, but it is their money, and you can't disagree with that. Because
then like the U.S. like I don't know. That's why it's crazy when people like come at these rich people and attack them. It's like why do you attack the 1%? It's like I want to be the 1%.
Yeah,
like,
don't attack them. Use their
study
knowledge.
What they learned and how they got it. People want to like rewrite it. It's like, oh, you just don't do anything. You just stumble into wealth, like you're Cardi B or somebody.
When
it's
you
like,
attack them, you're just not doing anything beneficial because they don't care what you say.
Yeah.
And what you're attacking them, you're not learning from them, and you're not using that knowledge to like.
And if your end all be all goal is to encourage them to be better with their riches, like telling them they're a bad person isn't a good opener.
Yeah,
it's like,
exactly.
It's like why holding a sign up at a protest is so ridiculous to me. It's like how many people actually go and like read a sign someone's holding at a protest and think, oh yeah, you're right, I changed my mind, I agree with you.
And then they go home and they're the biggest hypocrite ever.
Yeah, like
you have the opportunity to make the change, put the effort in and do it. Like it's just like if you want something to happen, do it yourself.
Yeah, just look. Why the age-old wisdom is just do it yourself, and
do it yourself.
I guess it's sort of like back to the throwing stones at the glass house thing. Is like the rich people, especially the ones that are like the media rich people, because like we really want to slam them for what they earn.
Yeah.
When you read books like The Millionaire Next Door, for example, like don't talk about the wealth distribution divide until you've read The Millionaire Next Door. Like you literally just don't know enough to understand it. But until you understand the American millionaire and how they actually make their money and like how they actually like they take less than they need and they save and they invest and they do it over a long period of time. That's the percentage of millionaires. Like that's who it is. It's the people who are like living below their means. They're saving their money and they're just investing long term, and then they're just growing their pot over time.
They're not buying Gucci flip flops and Louis Vuitton shirts and stuff. They're buying like the $3.50 shirt at the
and once you like, when a lot of people just don't understand like investing or compound interest or how the money grows over time, but it's like.
I think investment's huge, dude, and that's why I like.
They just don't teach it in schools, though, man. Like it bothered me so much.
Well, that's why you got to learn on your own, man. And the people that do are gonna be better with money.
I think Einstein was the one who said, "Oh, the compound interest is like the eighth wonder of the world."
Dude, you could even invest your money and there's so many different ways to do it. It's not just investing your money into stocks or mutual funds or anything like that. You can invest your money in property. You can invest your money in assets. You can invest your money in like different things that you like. It's like it's just using your money to like. To gain other, you know what I mean? Like,
and I think everybody has hobbies that lend themselves to like collector things too.
So yeah, collecting is investing.
Yeah, same idea.
It is.
And then
think about the value that something gains in 30 years. Or
I guess if you really think about it, like the complexity. Because I was gonna say it's harder to gauge the value of those things, but
like I was telling you,
it might not be harder. It might actually be easier.
I was telling you earlier about that album.
Yeah, exactly.
It's worth like $10,000, dude. It's an old Beatles album. It's worth $10,000 because of its distinctiveness.
Well, those things,
it's rarity.
Those things that they make that are finite, like anything finite appreciates.
But you have no idea if it's going to gain that value when you buy it. It's just
you could bet on like. I bet. Well, honestly,
there's certain things.
This is interesting. I wonder if we can use big data algorithms to like hack into that, see what actually has value long term, and predict it. Because I bet you could figure it out based on
that. Could be involved into your website. I'm serious, dude. Like it's possible to predict that. Depending on the item, though, it's like, for instance, records, the category of the item,
what variable do you think correlates to it the most? Like, if you had to pick one thing that would instill value, what do you think it is? Do you think it's like having someone famous involved with it who died early? Do you think it's like
that's a big thing.
That's a pretty big one. I think other big one I thought was like just the amount of records produced.
Yeah,
it's like video games, for example.
They
like
were only
GameCube
produced
games
for a certain amount.
They only produced for a certain amount of time, and
like
people break them.
Clothes,
people snap them every single day. So people break their game discs every day. So like every single day, my copy of Mario Super Sunshine becomes a little more rare. It's like every single day.
Vintage clothes right now, like reselling that, like it's like it's gained value over time, and that doesn't go back to being related to a person. It could be related to a team, a football team, basketball team. Brand like Ralph Lauren, something like that, Polo, same thing, but it like has gained value over time because of its rarity, because its distinctiveness. But with records, it's just different because it has multiple. It's the time that it was produced, and then also the people that are on it and their involvement.
I think this stage of like, because vinyl got repopularized again, like 5 years ago. And
no, it definitely did.
Like I don't know if it's
and vintage clothes got everything comes back and gets repopularized.
Yeah, but I think this period of time we're in where they're like overproducing it now is like because they overproduce a little bit, and then I think that they're not fulfilling the demand they thought. Like what I've noticed, like I don't think it's still climbing like we thought it was going to climb, but it's like going back down again. But you're essentially going to create that same sort of situation to like, But
the albums that are created now aren't those rare ones, aren't those?
Well, not yet.
Not yet. We'll see. But what is that one that was?
Who knows if a record even has value? I guess in the future. Like,
what was that one from 40 years ago? Yeah. What is the one from now? Like, what's the difference in cost in like 30 more years? Like, between those two?
I don't know. I was just thinking like, what if like a Drake views record? Like,
Drake even.
They made
newer artists.
Well, because the thing is like they're making it for a very like not like a niche group, but kind of a niche group, I guess. But because they're making it for such a niche group, like. Somebody's like, oh, well, should we make a Drake album? It's like, I don't know.
Cole,
like,
they have
Drake,
Cole's albums.
Like they're popular, but are they actually popular enough to buy records? Like, do the people who buy vinyl buy Drake music? Yeah. I would guess no. But because of that, they've made a bunch of Drake vinyl that's going to be useless and go to dog shit and nobody's really going to care about. And maybe 20 years from now, that vinyl will be worth something. It's like, oh, you just happen to have a Drake record. Like, why the fuck do you have a Drake record? Like, like that kind of thing.
Dude.
But it's like, what kind of musicians right now are like in those boats?
Yeah,
like,
and to see if it even has an impact in 30 years still.
Or like CDs too. Like, I don't know. Like, do you think records will hold more value or CDs over time?
I have no idea. Record.
I think the records
are
a
lot
more
cool. Personable. Yeah, in records also they have like some magazine posters. There's other stuff in there. A CD's just a little box. The CD will have a little pamphlet in there, but records are like they'll have posters. They'll have more. There's more there. It's more.
It's like a collector's thing.
Yeah, it's a collector's thing for sure, and that's why they have record shows and record collections and stuff like that. It's just.
And it's just more of a conversation, like just to start in general.
Well, do you see the front side of the...
Yeah, exactly. All right, well, we've been going for like an hour, so
it's just
we got a few cuts, but
running out.
Yeah, so like do you have an Instagram or anything set up for your?
I do.
You do? What's your? I'll post. Make sure you. Yeah, send it over to me. I'll put it in the bio, but like say you put it out now so everybody can hear it. And refer them over.
If your parents need or you need pressure washing done, let me know.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'll have all this like the clothing stuff and the pressure washing stuff below. So definitely do them some favors. And thanks for coming on.
Yeah, of course, man. It's good talking to you and good talking about this type of stuff.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll be on again pretty reoccurringly.
Yep, sounds good.
All right, have a good one, everybody.
You just listened to the Over Analytical podcast, where all opinions are subject to change when presented with better or more adequate information. Taven does not seek to be right, but to find the objective truths to further develop the conversation.